Hello everyone, my name is Blackwatch. What is Rogue Company, and why should you care? Rogue Company is a 4v4 third-person shooter. It's a tactical shooter, and it's based around the idea of heroes. So if you play Siege, which I'm assuming most of you do because you'll be watching from my channel, I do Siege videos in case you don't know me, then you have operators, called rogues in this case. The rogues have an active ability, and they have a passive ability. And they all kind of interact with each other in a way that Siege people do. Although not quite to the same extent as Siege people, but it's still there. There's still a lot of counter and things that can happen, basically. They all have different weapons, although there's a bit less weapon sharing than in Siege now, I would say. There's certainly quite a few people who have completely unique weapons to them, although there is a bit of a crossover here and there, so, you know. It's easy enough to get used to multiple characters because there's enough consistency in the loadouts to get used to whatever's packing and share it between the different people, so you're not feeling too out of the water, unfamiliar with anyone that you're just trying out for the first time. Although it's nice to try out the new weapons because they do feel completely different. There is a nice variance in the way that they actually perform. I would say that no two weapons really feel the same, and that's quite a nice feeling because you don't need to have lots of guns that basically fill the same role like Modern Warfare has. You essentially in Modern Warfare have 3 guns that are exactly the same but function slightly differently, and it's only really down to stats more than major performance differences, and it feels a bit cheap when you've got a game like that. So it's nice to have something where there's distinctive character among the weapons. And speaking of distinctive character, there's plenty of that in the rogues that are actually in the game. They all have their own appearances. The visual style is actually really quite nice. The graphics are pretty good, especially when you're aiming down sights over the shoulder. With this being a third-person game, you see quite a lot of detail in the faces of the models that you wouldn't necessarily expect. Stuff like you can see the pores and the hair follicles just chilling on the face, and it's like, for a third-person game where you don't need to have major model detail up super close, they do a pretty good job. Like, it's a pretty attractive looking game, I have to say. It's not bad at all. There's a bit of fabric physics here and there, nothing major, just some flapping waistcoats and scarves and things like that. But yeah, overall, pretty nice looking game. It performs really well. I've played it on both the Xbox One and the Series X, on both of them. It looks great and feels really good. I'm pretty sure it was 60 FPS on the one, and that was the base one. I'm talking like the OG 2013 model, you know, the absolute granddad of a console that's still somehow alive in my living room, even though it sounds like a chain smoker. It's just a good game. It's a surprise because a lot of free-to-play games that you get, they don't really have a lot of value in them, but you get a reasonable cast of characters for free. You can obviously get standard packs, or sorry, founder packs that you are available to purchase. The starter one I'd say isn't worth it. The standard one is very worth it, especially on a sale. I got mine between 10 and 20 quid, and it was well worth getting because it basically got all of the default characters and just missed out some of the bonus DLC characters that you can now get for a slightly increased price. And then the Ultimate Pack I wouldn't say is worth it for the massive price difference because you're only really getting a couple of extra skins, but if you like that completionist stuff, if you're a fan of Lancer, if you get to try her, she gets a really nice skin from that bundle. So, you know, something to consider, but I would say it's good to get the standard pack because that to me should be the minimum point of entry if you really want to enjoy the game in its fullest. If not, you got a hell of a grind ahead of you. The game is quite stingy about offering the free currency that allows you to purchase people. I think it's called Reputation. You need 15,000 to unlock someone, and you're not gaining a lot per game. Your main gains are going to be from daily quests and things like that, but it's still not too good. So really this is a game where I would advise you to play it free to play entirely to begin with, and then if you do take an interest in it, if you feel like you want to play the game long term, buy yourself at least the standard Founders Pack, and if not the Ultimate one, because you're not going to be unlocking people at any pace at all. I mean, this is a grind that is, I'd say, on an equivalence of buying a brand new DLC up in Siege. You're kind of playing that amount of time, maybe even more. In fact, yeah, probably quite a lot more now that I think of it, to unlock one base character, not even the DLC one. So yeah, watch out for that, consider that. But in terms of gameplay, it's really smooth. High headshot multiplier, so there is a reliance on headshots here. Obviously you have the usual stuff you get with third person games, corner peeking. It's got a shoulder swap, so you're not going to have to deal with any of the rubbish that you get from PUBG when you're playing in third person, where you can't look over your left shoulder, you can only look over the right. Dumb design decisions from a strange old archaic game. That kind of stuff you don't have to worry about. It's very tightly designed, very few bugs. There is one bug that is quite persistent, but it's only a funny one. It is basically when you kill someone, their models have a tendency to suddenly be gripped by some ethereal eldritch force and pulled into the Netherrealm across the map. It's really odd. They'll just suddenly start gaining speed and then whoosh, gone. Just disappeared into the Shadow Realm. So if you play it, watch out for that. I think I've got a clip of it in the video at some point, or you'll see it eventually. But if you're a fan of Siege, and if you're a fan of games like Gears of War, I would recommend trying it out. In terms of game modes, you've got limited time modes that come up, stuff like snipers only, other things like that, of that style. You tend to get an LTM on release of a new operation, or update, or character in this case, that allows you to play only on the new map that's been introduced. And so far all the maps that have been introduced have been pretty good, all the new maps that is. There are a couple of shockers in the game. High Castle, I think it is, springs to mind. It's like an Italian one with lots of red brick on the buildings, and one of the sites is either across a zipline or up a massive staircase, and the other site is through a sort of garden portion with some wooden boxes, and there's a fountain between the two sites. It sucks. It is the worst map in the game by a big margin. But most of the other maps I actually quite enjoy. I think they're pretty balanced on both sides. When they do favour one team, I wouldn't say it's too bad. I think it's still playable, and you know, there's plenty of rotation routes and there's plenty of options for both teams to be able to play around the map the way that they want to. You don't feel forced into a certain way of playing outside of that map that I mentioned. That one is really bad, and there's basically only one way to play that map, unfortunately. But yeah, on the whole, it's good. I'd say the characters are reasonably balanced. They've corrected balance issues quite quickly. I know the Fixer, who's a character who has thermal vision, I know, scary one, and he also has smoke grenades, oh, even scarier. Glasmains are having a bit of a flashback, they're watering at the mouth. He was well overtuned. He has been toned back, slowly but surely, to a point where he's now balanced, I'd say. I don't think he's too weak, I don't think he's too strong. I think he does a unique job that can be very strong in the right situations, but his gun is no longer the absolute melt machine that it was to begin with, and you know, you can actually do something about him now. Plus, he has a counter pick in the form of the other sniper in the game called Phantom. Her smoke can counteract his smoke, in that he can't see through her smoke, and it's quite clear to see the difference between the two. Her smoke has like sparkly fragments that come out of it to presumably get in the way, and his smoke doesn't have that, it's just smoke. But anyway, besides the two snipers, just talking about them for the whole video, it's just a smooth game that feels fun to play. It feels reminiscent of Gears of War, in a good way. I'm not always the biggest fan of Gears, but it has that feeling of smoothness that Gears has. I'd say even more refined actually, and I've just really been enjoying it for what it is. It's nice to get to use the characters, to get to know them. I think they do have potential from a lore standpoint, as long as they really dial in on that. I think they could have an Overwatch style lore. Hopefully better than Overwatch, because I know at times it has been a bit ropey with them. But, you know, I think they could tighten it up. I think they could push the game more than it's being pushed. I think it definitely deserves that. I know that Dr. Disrespect had a partnership with it. I'm a big fan of Dr. Disrespect. And I did get the skin and the emote that they made for him. But I just think that people should really check this out. I think it has a lot of potential, and it just deserves that little push from people to actually give it a chance, and maybe they'll see something that they really like about it. So it's free to play, there's no consequence. It's got a demolition mode, which is like bomb. You know, you just take the bomb, plant the bomb, defend the bomb. There's 2 sites, one on the left, one on the right. It's simple stuff, CSGO-y stuff. Strikeout, which is more like a team deathmatch but with tickets, and when you run out of tickets it's about just killing the whole of the enemy team one last time. And there's a neutral objective which will bleed tickets away naturally. And then there's another mode which is just a neutral objective that can't be moved. It's not quite as good. I'd say that the other modes are better. I like Strikeout a lot. I like Demolition. It's the competitive mode, it's Demolition. So if you want to play Ranked, that's the way it works. And Ranked has been reworked so that it now has placement matches instead of you just starting in Bronze and then working your way up. And there's going to be a Battle Pass, and there's going to be new stuff. It's looking like it's got a strong base of support. It just needs that extra push. So please guys, if you're interested, give it a download, give it a try. It's totally free. I like it a lot. And yeah, I'm not sponsored. Don't worry about it. I just like this game, and I'd like people to try it because it's good. And if there's interest, I'll make more videos on it in the future. So keep your eyes open, and I will see you in the next one. Do svidania, everybody. Bye bye.